The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Persons under 18 will not be admitted.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another kick-ass episode of Still Toking with. Yeah, you know who I am. I certainly hope by now you do. If not, well, name's right there somewhere.
Ben.
Shh, voices in my head again. No, I'm actually really excited about tonight's show. We're going to cover a topic that literally has been around forever. I'm going to leave it right there. And I think it's going to blow your mind, and we might even get out of this world. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see where it goes. But before that, Sparkles is here, the sparkly one, Mr. Jeffrey Mark.
Hello, cats and kittens. Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm also not going to say too much about this because it's going to reveal itself as we talk to this wonderful man, a talented man, an intelligent man. Among the many things he has done and is doing and looks into, he has a wonderful book we're going to be talking about, Sacrificing Humanity. The UFO is a Portent of Nuclear War. Chew on that for a couple of seconds. Well, I introduce someone I think you're going to like an awful lot, Mr. Indy Pederson.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
See,
It
I
worked.
don't like that layout. There's my layout. Somebody was in my damn studio again, but that's okay. We got it under control. I'm blaming Indy. I'm blaming Indy. It's all his fault.
It's my fault.
Microphone malfunction, slight freeze ups. You know, they don't want us to talk about the subject, but we're going to.
We are.
Indy, can you give our viewers and listeners a little background about you.
Okay, so I did not believe in UFOs, and I bought 9 miles of a nation state-sized island. It's a size of Maui, and I was building this is in Patagonia, Chile, in one of the most remote regions of the world. And it was going to be like the national park entrance, because there's no entrance into this uninhabited Maui-sized island. It's all rainforest, jungle, temperate rainforest. And so when I was purchasing it, the locals told me, this island you're buying property on is a known UFO base. And I laughed because I didn't believe in UFOs, because no one could get a decent picture of one, and because they supposedly travel light years only to crash. So I thought they were out of their minds. And so I just ignored them and purchased the land anyway, only to find out they were right. And all my beliefs, my paradigms of the world completely shattered. Everything I thought was true was turned upside down. So it was a earth-shattering experience for me. And I can tell you about the different experiences. I don't know which ones you want to go into first.
Well, before we go into an experience, I'd like you to define something for us and for me, because I don't know.
Okay.
What is the difference between a UFO and a UAP?
They just changed the definition, so it makes it more confusing for everybody.
I love to be confusing. Help me.
One is relating more to phenomenon, whereas the other, UFO, had more of the connotation of craft. But they're both.
What does UAP? I mean, UFO is unidentified flying object. What does UAP?
UAP is unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Gotcha.
So it's more of a phenomenon than it is a craft. That's where they changed the definition. But there's both, and so they're going to have to come up with another definition to describe the differentiate. They have to differentiate now between the craft and the phenomenon, because there's craft and then there's orbs. And the orbs, I believe that the orbs are delivery vehicles, and I can explain that in detail based on experience and based on a file that came out just really. I've been talking about this for about a year. I wrote about a year, and I've been talking about it for years since I had the experience. And everyone thought I was crazy because nobody had explained this before the orb becoming a being. Until the military file was released this May, where it's called, it was in a military file, and the actual file is a folder, military folder, and the actual file is called anamorphous UAP.mov. So it was a video file, and it uses the term anamorphous, which is a biological term. And what it means is that the arms and the legs grow last, or born last. So it's there's biological similarities that this happens in nature, but that's what they use to describe this alien file that was released in May. It came out in the end of the film. Jeremy Corbell, who's one of the main people getting people to Congress for the 3 congressional hearings that we've had. He's one of the ones that the whistleblowers are coming to because they trust him, and then he's bringing those people to Congress for the testimonies. And so some of them are leaking out a little earlier than Congress is getting to them, or the data dumps are getting to them, and that's one of them. So in that file, it's almost like I've been describing this for a very long time. It's nice to be vindicated finally, because everyone thought I was nuts. And my previous self would have thought so too, because I believe in that.
I will say you're on our show, so you are a little nuts, but that's okay. We like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my previous self would have thought I was nuts too. But had I heard what I'm about to tell you, I would have thought it was crazy. But the two objections that I had my prior life, my earlier years, I should say, were, well, no one can get a decent picture of them. Well, there's a reason. That was explained in the Age of Disclosure film that had, I think, 25 of our top military, Secretary of State Rubio, Clapper, James Clapper from NSA, a lot of really big names, right? And they're talking about UFOs and how they lied to us for decades in this film, this documentary. And there's a physicist on there, Hal Puthoff, and he explains the reason we haven't had any decent photos of these is because he explained the physics in detail, that they're in these space-time bubbles, and you're trying to get a photo through that, and it doesn't work. You can't take a picture through it, and that's why they're always fuzzy, because they're in a completely different realm than ours. And realm is not the word he used. It's the word I used. He said space-time bubbles. Excuse me. And then in terms of them crashing, the director of that film explained that on Rogan. And he said that when he was interviewing all these 25, 30 top military people, they admitted to him that our military is knocking them out of the sky with EMP, electromagnetic pulse. And there's a big site down there where Roswell knocked them down. So can you imagine, a very advanced civilization coming to ours that has technology that makes our physics seem like non-existent, defies our physics in every possible way. 3,000 G right angle turns when our craft literally disintegrate at 17 Gs. That came up in the congressional hearings, by the way, those exact figures. 17 Gs, ours disintegrate and everything turns to jelly. And 3,000 Gs are what these are pulling when they do right angle turns and instant acceleration. And, they're flying around a fighter, and Fravor, the pilot, testified in, I can't remember which of the 3 congressional hearings, a UFO comes up next to him, and he's full speed in his fighter jet, and the UFO just goes bye, and it's just a flash and it's gone, and instantly it's 60 miles away at their meetup point, just like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I ask a bigger picture question? I mean,
Yeah, sure.
Everything you're saying is fascinating. Don't get me wrong. That's why I'm like staring, because this is fascinating.
Yeah.
But you don't come from this world of stuff. You happened into it.
Yeah.
So can I ask a couple of backstory questions just real fast? Why, what possessed a guy who living in Oregon who loves to read books? I told you before we started how much as an author I love that you've got all these books in your house. How did you come to want to buy land in Patagonia in South America? What brought you there to find all of this?
Okay, so actually, it started with some really bad dreams. I was having these absolutely horrific nightmares that were just way too real, of nuclear war, night after night for quite a stretch. This is back in the 80s. I looked up the date, and I found out that, ironically, Jordan Peterson was having the same dreams at the same time. I didn't know this at the time, but he's been talked about that. And I looked up the date he was having the dreams and I was having the dreams, and they were exactly at the same time. And just absolutely horrific dreams of the Seattle area where I was living, complete, nothing left, Boeing and Microsoft and everything gone, and smoking rubble, and a post-apocalyptic dreams. And I couldn't understand why I was having them. And And I didn't know about Jordan Peterson's dream. It was nothing happening at the time, nothing. And so there was no reason for them. And I was in another business and I won a lawsuit. And so I had a lot of money to go travel around the world. So I was traveling around the world 2 years nonstop, and went to 30 countries and went to all these places that I had in my dreams, like Moscow, Russia. And I interviewed people like Colonel Yablonsky, head of the START agreements. And I walked into the KGB headquarters and I got an interpreter. She was shaking and saying, "These people are evil, I want out of here." So I was like, can we get out of here? And I saw this 2-story portrait that you would have in the quality of oil painting that you'd have in a Louvre. And it just massive. And it was of Saddam Hussein. And I saw a picture of the United States with us being Russia, at least the Alaska part of it. And so it was not a good place. I got the hell out of there as fast as I could. Anyway, so I went to, and then I went through I toured all the major, any citizen can do this. You can tour all the major US, if you're a US citizen, you can tour the US sites. So I toured, I started with Cheyenne Mountain. That's the most famous one. Inside the mountain, I interviewed a lieutenant colonel and 2 generals in there. And the most shocking story I got in there was, my question was, well, what happens with it if an SS-18 Satan hits Cheyenne Mountain? And the official said, well, Cheyenne Mountain would instantly become Cheyenne Valley. And I said, what good is this that you spent hundreds of millions of dollars building inside this mountain then? And he said it was obsolete as soon as they built Russia built the SS-18. And then a woman there asked the question, are we going to be warned in advance? And she was told no, and she had a meltdown there in front of everybody. And they tried to explain to her there's no time. SLBM, submarine launched ballistic missile, has 6 minutes, and high altitude EMP, and you get X-ray pinned down and you can't get your launch codes off. So they got to literally launch in that very short, it's hair trigger system. It's literally a Dr. Strangelove type, Strangelovian situation we're in. And so she had a meltdown. And then I went to a lot of other places. I won't give you the long, boring list, but just quickly in the launch control centers in Missouri, where I saw on a list after going through months of background checks to get the same tour, pages and pages of Russians who had the same tour. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? And then looked up on after going right angle turns in the solid rock and for blast waves, and saw the big screens up there of the hundreds of ICBMs hidden in farmers' fields. And then this prophecy came to mind. Missouri, Illinois, and Iowa will be a complete wilderness with not a single inhabitant left alive and not a yellow dog to wag its tail. And I remembered the movie The Day After where the missiles are sending in columns of vapor, and there's this moment of the void where everyone's stunned silent as they're seeing the missiles coming out of the cornfields. And they realize there's 30 minutes of silence until the return comes, and then they finally wake up and they go running. But there's this moment of the void. So anyway, all that came to mind. But that's how it started. So I bought an island very far away. So Elon Musk has his way of saving people, the planet, civilization on Mars. I have a more local version, except I ran into, after buying the island, it's a known UFO base, the feds all seemed to know it was as well. So I got swarmed around by, just dozens of three-letter acronym agencies, including military intelligence interrogator says, "Hi, I'm Jacqueline. I'm a military intelligence interrogator." And I said, well, do you always announce that you're an interrogator to someone you're about to interrogate? And she's a professional, so she had the line that she apparently used a million times, which was, yeah, every statement you make has a pretext, and based on the pretext, I can tell if you're lying, and blah, 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 blah. And she went on. And she rattled it off just like this.
Why would they allow you to buy the property if it was this sensitive to what they were trying to do?
I don't think they were aware that when I purchased it, but immediately after I purchased it, I had all hell broke loose. And mostly feds buzzing around constantly. And it ended up in a horrible situation in the very end. At the time I wrote my book, I was hoping to save it, but I ended up I was selling it during a short window when I had an opportunity to sell it for $35 million to one of the wealthiest estates in the United States, one of the wealthiest. It's way up there. All the assets, the island and a bunch of others. And a saboteur, who we believe is a Fed, and we'd love to do a $105 million RICO. If you know any lawyers out there who have deep pockets, $35 of provable damage, treble RICO damages would be $105 million for your prize, to go after this guy who took us down. He sabotaged the $35 million sale, and then my top law firms in Chile. And there has to be 2 predicate acts, and he's got quite a history of taking down, how can you put it, independent groups. Yeah, independent groups. So he did a really good job on us. So sabotaged the sale right when the one time where we had a chance to make the sale, because we had contracts that we had to meet timelines on. So back to the aliens, which I'm sure is what you want to hear about.
It's all very interesting.
Where would you like me to go next?
I mean, all right, so you do not own the island anymore, or you do?
No, I do not own. I never owned the island. It was a national park, Isla Magdalena National Park.
Okay.
And I owned 9 miles of it. And I owned a spot over top the waterfall. So I had Antoine Predock, who I believe is the #1 architect in the world. He's kind of like the Frank Lloyd Wright. We were going to build a new falling water. That was the whole goal of the thing. And to build this spectacular falling water right over top of a waterfall, not on it, but literally above it, hanging up over it. Mm-hmm. And I paid his massive retainer and all expenses for him and his team to come down from New Mexico, US, all the way to the island, remote island. So it was quite a lot of expense. And he said, I could build you. He said, an unknown art. First of all, I said, how did you, this gringo, find this place out in the middle of absolutely nowhere? That was the first question. And then the second question, next statement, he said, well, an unknown architect could build on the site and he'd be world famous, just building this and nothing else. Because this site is spectacular, right. 100-foot waterfall falling off into the ocean fjord. And we're building, and it's got a platform above it, about 100 feet above that. So you can literally build out, cantilever out over the waterfall. And he said, I can build you something here that the day it's finished, the whole world would know about it. So that's what we were doing. We were building a $60 million resort and having very wealthy people from some billionaire families come down to invest in it. And then we had all the feds interceding because it's a UFO base. So had a lot of action that was not intended.
And how did you not own it? What happened that you don't own it any longer?
So I had contracts with the Ministry of Chile that I was building a national park for them, a resort in a 9-mile trail that went along 26 waterfalls, and it's spectacular. And I had deadlines to meet on that. And they sued us, and we won lawsuit. So there was a window of time where my attorney said, okay, you can sell it now and we can get new contracts, bring in new investors, and they can take over your existing contracts. We sell it at a bargain price, $35 million, because we're building a $60 million resort. So it's a bargain. And we sell it for $35 million, and they can come in and assume the contract. So we had this window that we could do that. And we were going forward. The very big estate family in the US, whose name I won't mention, they had signed initial contracts. They had hired attorneys down there. They had gone through months of due diligence. It was a long process. It's a big sale, so it takes a lot of time. And when it was clear it was going forward, this Fed revealed himself, sent a explosive letter to, drop them or else, basically. Drop the sale or else, and threatened their bond and their insurance, and that's their whole enterprise of the real estate firm that had this family. As I'm talking about a family that buys football teams and other things. So yeah. And
I can buy a football.
Yeah.
I can't even afford a ticket. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I wasn't too happy about it, and I would love a really heavy law firm to take this on. But and then I talked to Linda Moulton Howe recently, and you probably she wrote the book. She got an Emmy on her documentary about Strange Harvest, I think it's called. She did one of the first cattle mutilation documentaries. She won an Emmy for it, local Emmy. It's a really amazing film. If anyone hasn't seen, if anyone doubts cattle mutilations, watch that film and it will disabuse you of any notions you have of anything other than UFOs. It will. And I had the same experience. My first experience that something was really up with the island was I witnessed the largest cattle mutilation in world history. It dwarfs anything that's happened in the United States. Like Colorado comes in number 2. And I recently, this last week, I've been probing AI for day after day. And the more I probe ChatGPT on this, the more I learn. ChatGPT is weird. It initially gives you the public consumption answer, the official answer, right? And then you ask, well, how about this? And then how about that? And then it gives you more, and then it gives you more, and then it starts branching out. And before you realize it, oh my gosh, this is much bigger than I imagined. So that's the way it was with this. And initially I knew at the time, I experienced this happened just across the narrow fjord from my island project. So it's just a narrow fjord, and then there's a mainland. So right there on the mainland, in Cisnes is the area. There were hundreds in Patagonia, and dozens in one single night in Cisnes of cows and sheep that were mutilated. And then when I got into this, I realized, well, ChatGPT showed me, well, it didn't just happen there. It happened simultaneously on the same days throughout Argentina and in Uruguay. So 3 countries, all at the same time. And we're talking thousands of, one guy alone documented 1,500 that he went to police agencies, and this ChatGPT told me this source, 1,500 just in Argentina. So through that 1,500, you have to add all of the Chileans, which are the cows that were mutilated there, which are probably in the hundreds. Most of them aren't even documented because there's this remote wilderness. But this is an illustrative example because it will, again, to use the same phrase, it'll disabuse anyone of the notions that this is not UFOs for the following reasons. Number one, common explanation is, well, like in Colorado. It's the military doing it. Maybe they're testing radiation on cows or biological testing on cows. No, that doesn't fly in Patagonia, because every time the military's been down in the 20 years I've been there, everyone knows they're there. Their ships are off the coast in Valparaiso, 1,200 miles to the north. And they're, the guys are in the short haircuts are in Starbucks. So, everyone knows. So they weren't there that year. So that's out. How about the Chilean military? No, that doesn't work, because they're massively underfunded. In the 20 years I was there, I never saw them in our region there at all, ever. They're clear off in Balmaceda. So that's a long ways away. The next common explanation as well, maybe it's Satanists or pranksters or people of some sort, right? No, that's completely ruled out in this Patagonia situation for two primary reasons. Number one, this happened in June, which is Chile's winter. And it's a rainforest, and it really rains there. So you take one step, you sink this far in the muck, and there was no tracks. So explain that to me. No tracks of predators, no tracks of humans, no tracks, period. No tracks. And okay, well, it's helicopters. If there's no tracks, they must have done it with helicopters, right? And that doesn't fly either, because we tried to get a helicopter down there, the same place, the island, for a major TV show that had a lot of funding behind it. And we worked for days trying to get one helicopter into the region, just one. There aren't any helicopters in the region. So that's out. Anyway, and here's the clincher, is that at the exact time that thousands of cows were being exsanguinated in 3 countries, Uruguay, Argentina, and Chile, and dozens in one night that I witnessed right at the site, where their eyes are cored out with these perfectly round laser precision. I talked to Linda about this. She actually, in her film, they have laser, she had experts analyze the multiple burn layers, that the equipment that's doing this is so advanced, because it will have a burn layer, a not burn layer, a burn layer, not, and it's just like a laser that is unlike anything we have, that's coring them out. So these aren't like, I don't know, mice eating. First of all, mice can't fall an 800-pound cow, and hundreds of them, or across 3 countries, thousands of them, in a couple nights, or mostly in June of 1 year. So that's out. And so they core out the eyes, they core out the anus, they core out the sex organs, and I saw that. Oh, it's horrible. They're doing it to humans now too. I've seen blood-curdling pictures from Brazil, 4 pictures, horrible pictures of humans that had the same thing happen to them. And there's a file that I'm trying to get to through ChatGPT that Chat says is closed, like locked up, solid, in South America, that the Uruguayan Air Force actually investigated the cattle mutilation. So not only the Air Force, but the UFO division of the Air Force. So it's a cattle mutilation, but you got the UFO division of the Air Force being called in to investigate it. That should say something right there. So,
Indy, I have a few questions. Could I stop your story just for a
sure,
second?
good.
And for the first one, I want the shortest possible answer. This is for your benefit.
Okay.
For any intrigued, like we are, attorneys who might be watching our show right now, do you or do you not still own the property there? And what are you trying to achieve with an attorney? Give me a real short answer so they can understand.
A RICO case of $105 million, which is treble damages, provable damages of $35 million. I don't own the property anymore. I still own one of the world's largest glacier water rights, because I believed in the event of nuclear war, which these things are pushing, and we can talk about that next because they're showing up at the launch control sites and starting countdowns and worse.
Okay.
Um,
Next question, sir.
yeah.
Why do you believe these animals are being mutilated? What is the point of it?
I wish I knew. And I had a long interview with Linda Moulton Howe, and nobody knows. There's some DNA, something they're getting from them, and the scary part is they moved on from animals to humans, in the last 10 years. So that's a little frightening. I'm to speculate for a minute. I hear a lot of people tell me, well, we've been dealing with UFOs for 70 years. Obviously not a threat. Well, I've been thinking of an analogy, and I've got a really good one. And I sum it up with, we're the new Indians. I'm going to use the term Indians. I interviewed the largest reservation in Navajo reservation, and they don't like the term Native Americans. They loathe it. They say we're Indians, and if you notice all the casinos, they say Indian tribe of this, Indian tribe of that. So I'm going to use Indians. So in 1492, Columbus arrived in the Caribbean, and so that would be like the equivalent of what I'm witnessing down in the front lines. So that's the front lines. The Caribbeans, where the Spaniards were down there, and they immediately within 2 to 3 years were having problems. So we're at that phase right now in Patagonia and Brazil. We're in the front line. So we're seeing the problems. We know what's coming. So they knew in the Caribbean what was coming, and they could have told their brethren up in all the other Indian reservations, well, they weren't reservations then, all the other Indians up in the north, what was coming, they would have had a heads up. So it was, the Pilgrims landed in 1620. So that was 50 years from the time that they arrived. That was a turning point. That was the bloodiest per capita event in history. And it was, if you do the math on the 1492 to 1675, I know that's almost 200 years. So, that's a long time before it really got bloody, for when these must have looked like, I remember this scene in Mel Gibson's film where the big ships landed. It must have been like they were seeing aliens land. He did a really good job on that, because when they looked at the ships, it was like, oh my gosh, what is that? When they saw the ships coming in, it was like aliens landing. So I think this is an indicator, if I'm going to speculate here, that we're the new Indians. And the biggest event for me was not the cattle mutilations. That's where it started. And that's where I still didn't believe in UFOs at the time of the cattle mutilation, but I went through all the possibilities of what it could have done it. And that's where you end up if you just use reason and you look at the event, and there's nowhere else you can go. And I explained the reasons why. But I was stubborn and I still didn't believe it. And it wasn't until one of my business partners and I were going up that dirt road to Camino Austral, 3 a.m., when there wasn't a human being within hundreds of miles of us, and we were in the national park in the middle of winter and no one's out there, and we pull over to sleep, and initially you see this thing looks like a star zipping around, and but it's doing right angle turns and flying like this. It's like freaking crazy. And like, what is that? And then us seeing it, watch it, which you have noticed, by the way, in tranche 4 and 5, if you look at tranche 4 and 5, every time the gun camera locks onto one of these things, they know. It's almost like they're saying, oh, you think you're going to catch me in the gun camera? Watch this. Pew! And it's like, or alternatively, while one's caught in the gun cram, another comes and goes a right angle turn right in front of it, which is like the moon footage. You saw the moon footage of the two red orbs. Have you seen those yet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's two orbs. One's material, it's on the moon. So NASA's been hiding this stuff for us for 70 years. So there's one orb on the moon, and it's materializing and dematerializing, which is the other thing I witnessed. They materialize and they dematerialize, like they're coming from I don't know what they're doing, but they're coming from somewhere else. And while that one's doing that, this other one does a right angle turn. They're both red orbs, and Linda told me the red ones are the most dangerous. The white one is one that came up 2 feet from my face. So back to my story. So you're watching it, it knows you're watching it. And that's really, really clear if you watch carefully tranche 4 and 5 of the data dumps at the coming out of the whitehouse.gov. Anyone can go to them, anyone can watch them, and they're really convincing. You have these orbs doing, the minute they get locked onto, not always, but most of the times and it's instant acceleration that it's the 3,000 Gs that they talked about in congressional hearings. So they're emitting all this stuff now. We've had our Galileo moment where we realized man's not the center of the universe. We realized that they admit in these 3 hearings that they're really aliens, that UFOs really exist. They have biologics, which are aliens. They call them biologics. They reverse engineered craft. They admitted Roswell really happened. They admitted that people are getting injured. They didn't mention that a lot of them were being killed. Gary Nolan, Stanford's famous Stanford pathologist, he, for the families, see these things will show up at our launch control sites. Our nuclear equities is what the words they used when they try to cover this stuff up in the congressional hearings. They use nuclear equities. When you hear that terms, just equate that to like nuclear missile launch sites. This is one of them. Yeah, one of the major ones. It includes other things, but like every aspect of the nuclear equities. But so the craft or orbs, and there's a difference between the two, show up at our sites. Somehow they zap the personnel, and Gary Nolan studied 100 of these people, this famous Stanford pathologist, and 25 of them died, and the rest of the 100 had permanent Havana syndrome brain damage with the brain cells burned white. So it's really serious. And so he's a consultant for the families in the lawsuit against the government. So, but not all of them do that. And they said that in the congressional hearing. So I was lucky. The red ones are the worst. The white ones are not so bad, some of them. So I had one of the white ones. It came after it saw us watching it, me and my business partner. It came down, hovered over the tree for a while. This whole thing took 15 minutes. So that rolls out ball lightning. It rolls out the piezoelectric effect. Plus you got intelligence there, because it had to navigate then from the top of the tree. It navigated tightly between the space between the truck and the trees to come down to the side window. I was going to sleep this way and put my pillow here. My partner was in the back, with a club cab, the truck, and right where my head was, the orb came right there. And so the side window, so I had my face stuck to the window, and it was right here. So it was 2 feet in front of me. I think that's the closest anyone has ever seen one of these, that I know of, at least. I've read widely on this since, and I haven't seen anyone. And I could see inside of it. So I saw this almost like circular 8 churning of liquid fluid, I guess you can call it, whether it's, I don't know what kind of fluid it is, gas or what it is, but it's almost, well, not transparent because you can't see through it. But it's a powerful engine. And so I was watching this for a long time. The whole thing took 15 minutes. That's why it rolls out these other explanations. Plus its intelligence. It's highly intelligent. And then the thing that I've been talking about wrote about this for a year in my book, Sacrificing Humanity, which is on Amazon now. And so I had it in print.
Real quick, folks, if you're interested in what we're talking about here this evening, Indy's book is a definite catch. It's in the show notes, up above, down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. I suggest you go pick one up because we're not even scratching, and I'm not even joking here, we're not scratching the surface of what's in this book.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It's 2 volumes, and the first volume is important because it shows the script that is playing out, that may have played out in history in the past. I hope it doesn't play out because it's not a very good script. And the idea is we need to change the script because it's playing out. But to understand that statement, you have to read the book. And then volume 2, it goes really into depth that things I witnessed on the island that are too unbelievable for people to even believe. So I put those off for a little while.
Indy, if you were able to see all these things, I don't mean what you saw with your eyes. I'm talking about all the things you found online, the government documents, the meetings and the conferences. I'm confused at the wrong word. I would think our government would love to talk with you on a friendly basis. Like, all right, you've seen something nobody else has. And Ben
is shaking his head.
No
very violently.
fucking way. Our
No.
government does not.
No.
With the amount of people that are on this planet,
right?
If they came out and they admitted to a fraction of what we're leading to this evening, there would be mass fucking hysteria. You can't, they won't do it. They won't do it.
They won't do it.
They just won't fucking do it. You've got to be your own person. And I'm talking to everybody out there that watches the show, that's listening to this part of the show. You've got to be your own person. You have to do your own research, whether you believe or whether you don't believe. That's entirely your choice. But I will tell you one thing. This motherfucker right here has a to-go bag. And I'm leaving it right there. I'm leaving it right there.
Yeah. So, it doesn't work out well for whistleblowers.
No.
I'm
going to say I'm surprised with the things that you've discussed this evening. I'm surprised that you're still breathing.
Oh,
and I don't mean that in a bad way. Please don't take that the wrong way, because we've heard so many stories.
Yeah.
Of whistleblowers, and not just UFO, but just whistleblowers in general who
go away.
They go away.
Yeah,
whether it's CIA black site or a bullet in the head.
There's 11 dead or missing scientists right now, so they're getting rid of scientists as well. Amy Askridge,
didn't know too much.
Michael Hicks, Monica Risa. Monica Risa was she was key because she was one of the key things for these to reverse engineer these craft is the material that they're made out of, craft itself, to be able to withstand 3,000 Gs and all the electrical magnetical forces that are operating on them. Her specialty is for the NS from NASA was the materials group, and then there's she was and there's Melissa Cassius, same similar scientist background. She worked at Los Alamos. So Monica Risa, though, she was hiking with 2 of her colleague friends, and one of them was 30 feet in front of her, waved, said hi, and then she vanishes, just poof. The dogs, no scent, no trace, no tracks, she just disappeared. And then another one, which was General McCaslin, he was head of the Air Force leadership on the Air Force Research Laboratory doing the research on these craft. So he was one of the key people who knew, a lot of the people in the UFO community, they knew he knew a lot. And he left suddenly in the middle of night, left his dinner sitting on the table, left all of his devices that all of these people, by the way, they left without all their phones, without their smart watches, without their jogging all the smart devices at home. So they're running from something, and like suddenly, and they take a gun with them, and one of them ends up on top of a ridge, dead. The others, they don't find them. General McCaslin ends up floating in one of the tributaries of the Potomac. No, it's someone's got to get to the bottom of this. It's like the syndicate in X-Files, killing people with Smoking Man out, killing people with impunity. So I was mentioning. So I had talked about this event for years, and wrote about it a year ago in the book that's now out. And I was vindicated in just in May of this year, and by Jeremy Corbell. He released a file, in a military file, because he had these military people coming to him. It was called Anamorphous UAP.mov, and it shows this. It shows an orb. It's already converted beyond orb. It's starting to convert into like something from Star Trek, or remember Scotty, beam me up, where they materialize.
Yep.
Which is exactly what I witnessed from the orb. So it starts off an orb. It's only the size of a bowling ball, which is an inch smaller than a basketball. So it's this big, and it's got a powerful engine in there. And this is the same things that zap these military people out on. So there's a lot of power in these little small balls.
Don't touch them.
Yeah. You can. I was staring inside this thing. They're trying to figure out how it worked. I had my face pinned up against the glass and going, "Wow, that's amazing." But when it started to convert into a torso and a head, which comes in first, which is in that file that Jeremy Corbell released through Whistleblower, which is anamorphous UAP.mov. You can see it in video. You see the torso and the head starting to come in first. That's why it's called anamorphism. The biological term means the arms and the legs are born last. They come in this case, materialize last. So the head and the torso comes in, and when it was starting, arms and other parts were starting to fully form. It formed more for me, quite a bit more than that file was released. Because the reason why is because that file that was released, it knew it was on camera. And when they know when they're on camera, they almost always just watch the files. Watch Tranche 4 and 5. It's really, really clear. They know when they are on camera. The minute the gun sights lock onto them, pew, they go, "Okay, dude, try to follow this."
And they're gone.
And they're gone.
Yeah. In layman's terms, people, it's like the Lamborghini, the Toyota Corolla.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. And
why do you think this is just a logical question. I'm not disbelieving anything you're saying, by the way. It's just a logic question. Why is the government releasing any of this for people to look at if they want to keep it a secret?
There's two forces in a battle. You guys ever watch X-Files?
Hell yeah.
Okay. You remember the Syndicate?
I own them all.
You remember the Syndicate?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the Syndicate. So Chris Carter, who wrote and directed the X-Files, he admitted that some of the scripts were handed to him, written by a whistleblower in the CIA. So the ones that are not the traditional monster garbage ones that just go, oh, that's junk. There's some that you just go, wow, this is very real. This is too real to be fiction. Yeah, those. Anyway, so he had the syndicate. Jeremy, what's his name? His name escapes me at the moment. I got someone else, not Corbell. Anyway, I can't remember the name, but Colonel Corso wrote a tell-all book just before he died, and he listed all the people MJ12 who were so secretive that they even put out false documents to disprove themselves that were fraudulently written. So it's like a good way to have to disprove yourself is to question whether you really exist. But he listed all of them, and one of them was our first Secretary of Defense, Forrestal, who Linda Moulton Howe interviewed the family members and said he was shoved with an enormous, they had an investigator investigate this, enormous amount of force up through the window when he was killed at Bethesda Medical Hospital. It was a suicide, though. Yeah, he jumped out. Anyway, so he listed all those people. So to answer your question, there's this power struggle between those who want to keep this secret at all costs. It's like a Manhattan Project because they're reverse engineering the craft, and they're the angriest, and they're doing agreements with the aliens. The angriest I ever saw Tucker Carlson was when Grush, David Grush, one of the whistleblowers, told Tucker on air, I've had people go and look this up to confirm this because they didn't believe me, got really angry when Grush said that we made agreements, as in a capital A, like in a contract with aliens. And Tucker just exploded, got red in the face and got really angry. What do you mean we're doing agreements? That's not constitutional. We haven't talked to the public. And anyway, he wasn't happy. And yeah, so then
I want to say real quick, I have to agree with that we have made agreements with. How do you explain a lot of the technology that we're seeing?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a really good question.
Brilliant fucking people out there, but I'm sorry, they're not that fucking brilliant.
Yeah, there's a question that comes up to me often in all of the shows I've been interviews and TV interviews especially, and they say, well, are these ours? And my answer is, I have 3 solid reasons why they're not ours. Number one, we have no control over them. If they're starting countdowns at our nuclear launch sites, and in Russia as well, Russia, they literally had an all-out launch on us, they were aimed at us, and they couldn't stop the launch sequence for the nuclear weapons until they did everything, shut the power off, to everything, and they kept on going until the UFO flew away, and then it stopped. And we had I interviewed missileers who had nervous breakdowns, who had similar experiences. I guess they had to walk outside to make sure everything was still there and we hadn't blown ourselves up, because they thought we were in a nuclear war. And the monitors and computers were all showing that we were in a nuclear war. And so they had the ones telling me that, and the other 2 are going, yeah, we were there, we saw it, and it was pretty, they were just had nervous breakdowns over it. So that's one. We're not controlling these things. Now, granted, they do, they have also turned the systems off completely, which we wouldn't like. But and that's what tends to make the news. They're trying to protect us. No, because 20 times I asked ChatGPT, of the hundreds of times that Robert Hastings, who spent his whole life interviewing missileers, he did far more interviews than I did. I summarize his findings in my book, Sacrifice on Humanity. His book is 600 pages of nothing but case after case after case. I said to ChatGPT, okay, how many cases did Hastings document? Hundreds, it says. Okay, of the hundreds, how many could have potentially caused nuclear war? ChatGPT, what's the answer? 20, up to 20. 20 times it could have potentially caused nuclear war. Think about that. So they're not friendly. That alone rolls out the couple times they turned off the nukes. And even with their changing launch codes, which they've done, that means they hacked our systems. So that's not good either. And then there's a time when the missile is going 9,000 miles an hour and an orb is flying alongside of it, like it's not even moving.
Right.
It zaps it here, and flies down here and then takes it out, and it's gone. and
Speaking of manifesting,
there's your daughter.
Here's a terrestrial
this
visitor.
is my granddaughter.
Oh,
Can
your
you say
granddaughter.
hi?
Hi, Lila.
Can
Hi,
you wave?
Layla. How are you?
Good.
Good.
You look very pretty today.
We're talking about aliens.
Mhm.
Aliens, yeah. Do you like aliens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
What?
let's see what that do.
No, don't touch that. The aliens already messed with that tonight. That's my microphone.
What is this?
Don't touch that either. Don't touch nothing.
What is
Don't
that?
touch.
Hey, what is that?
All right. You came down to say hi. You being a
Hi.
good girl? Yeah. Dorme un beso?
There
All right,
you
well-
go.
Can you say bye to everybody?
Bye.
Say see you next week.
Love you, Lila.
Jeffrey Mark said I love you.
I love
Can you say te amo mucho?
mucho.
Good girl.
Grazie.
There's a manos. Go ahead. Go see mama. I'll be right up. 5 minutes.
Yeah, so I was vindicated on that experience that I described, and I've been describing for years now,
Mhm.
of the orb converting into an alien being. So I have a theory. It's pure speculation. I'm separating things that I actually observed and know to be fact from things that I'm speculating on. So I have a theory that these orbs are delivery vehicles for aliens, and there's quite a number of them landing in Patagonia and Brazil right now. So we're like the front lines, and so the people that say, well, they've been with us for 80 years, it's a rerun of the Indians. We're the new Indians. I hope that's not the case, but it seems to me that's what's happening. And
Do you believe colonization has already started?
I've read a number of people who believe that. I read just this week, Walking Amongst Us, who is there's two main people one from Harvard and one from, I can't remember the other place, professors who interviewed hundreds and hundreds of abductees. And the abductees, I've read all of the abductee after having these experiences. They all tell the same story. Decades ago, they were doing simple experiments on people, getting our DNA in very intrusive ways, which are not very fun to go through, apparently. And then next phase was raising human hybrids, taking the eggs of women and the sperm of males and creating hybrids, alien human hybrids. Similar to what is being accused of Epstein on Epstein Island. By the way, the Epstein victims, the Epstein book on Juliet Bryant is from my publisher, Trine Day.
Yep.
And that book was pulled. I interviewed her at length, and she said
we actually interviewed her as well.
Yeah. So
Yes.
she said that she had very serious death threats. She was getting the Havana syndrome beamed at her, where she was, had all the symptoms of Hannah syndrome, and she had these guys in trucks, military guys in trucks showing up outside of her place and threats. And so she pulled the book, and I actually have right in my hands here, the opening paragraph. You want me to read it to you?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good way, because we are over time and I do have a hard out this evening. But I think that'd be a good way to kind of end off the show. But folks, make sure you check out Indy's book. No, I
tell her story in Sacrificing Humanity. The story that got censored. Mm-hmm. I tell her story. So she wakes up naked on this table in Zorro Ranch, in Epstein's ranch, and standing over her is this figure that she describes. It's just like right out of X-Files, the glossy dark hair, flawless luminescent skin, like a typical alien description. And then and she tries to calm her down and say, and she's looking at all this really advanced medical equipment around her, and she says there's figures standing around beside me watching, 6 giant figures in hazmat suits, black visors, watching in silence. Who are they? Were they even human? She answered that question on a number of video interviews and said, I don't believe they're human.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's an answer to your question. It's a roundabout answer, but
I mean, this is one of those subjects that I feel. So as far as our show goes, Indy, there's only been 3 or 4 people that ever came back for a second interview with the show, because the show is so large that it's so hard to get people back in, because I book months in advance. But I think this topic is something, and Jeffrey Mark, I don't know if you agree with me,
yes.
That I think we need to bring you back.
I would love to come back
in a few months, maybe, after the holidays or something, and do a part 2, because we really have not.
Oh, we haven't even scratched the surface.
We haven't even scratched the surface.
No,
what you've seen, what you've gone through.
No, we haven't. There's so many aspects of this we haven't even touched on yet.
Right. I mean, you had a whole PowerPoint thing put together that we didn't even get to it. We didn't even talk about all the breakaway civilization down there that I run into. All those folks.
No,
exactly.
I'm feeling January is going to be a part 2.
I think.
Cool.
I really think that in season 8, folks, I think season 8 is going to be a part 2 type season, because we have other people that, that really have stories that we never really get to. We can't get into the whole story because there's just too much.
Right.
That's why I had to put this in 2 volumes. The first volume, it shows the prophecies and the script that we're following, which is not a good one, that we don't want to follow, because it leads to very bad outcomes. And it compares that to thousands of years ago, clear back to the petroglyphs on the walls of the canyons in Utah and Four Corners region. And then it tells these stories, summarizes them in the last chapter. And then there's a volume 2 that really gets into depth about all of this.
Yeah. But even that, we haven't even scratched the surface of either volume here, No,
we haven't.
And this is one of those things that a lot of people are interested in.
Yes.
So once they see this first part, they're going to want to come back. They're going to want you back. They're going to be in the chat asking a lot of questions, some maybe to try to debunk, some maybe not. But at the end of the day,
what's interesting is when you get into the aspects that the Epstein victims saw UFOs at Zorro Ranch, and they went through very similar to alien human hybrid experiments on them. That's where it really gets like, wow.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And when you brought that up, when you brought up the harvesting of the eggs and the harvesting of the sperm, the instantaneous in my head said, hey, that was the script on the X-Files.
Yeah, it was.
It happened to Scully.
Yep.
If you watch the X-Files, folks, you know.
Yeah, and then in one of the episodes when they're in DARPA and Mulder sneaks into DARPA, they had all the women that were pregnant and the aliens, and they were creating mass numbers of hybrids to put them into society and to fill key roles within society unknown, which is what one of the people interviewing in that book, they're Walking Amongst Us. That's a really dark book. I don't know. I hope he's wrong.
Right.
Yeah, but that's coming from the interviews from the abductees, though. That
I look forward to the part 2. I've got so many questions to ask you, including, let's assume there is darkness coming. What could be done to avert it?
Become friends with Indy because he has hiding places.
No, I lost the hiding place, and the hiding place ironically turned out to be in their backyard. So
yeah, funny how that works out.
It's one of the worst ironies of all time. Is you go to escape it, and it literally you land right smack in the center of it.
Indy, the topic is absolutely fascinating. I know our friends, the millions of friends who are watching and listening, whether live right this moment or later, are going to want a part 2. And please come back in January and let's get deeper into this.
I would love to. Look forward to it.
Real quick, folks, if you're interested in the book, which if you're not, then you're probably not watching this episode. Check the show notes up above, down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. The links are there to purchase this book. The book is called Indy,
Sacrificing Humanity by Indy Pederson, Pederson.
There you go. So make sure you check that out. Look forward to part 2 with Indy in January. I'm going to reach out after the show, and we're going to get
in touch with my bookers to arrange that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll reach out to him. We'll get him rebooked on the show for part 2, because this is just one of those topics that literally we could have a 10-part series on.
I know.
And
there's so many aspects of it. The Epstein part is just an aspect. The colonization is an aspect. The breakaway civilization of all these billionaires saying, we got a lot of friends returning. That's a pretty shocking statement coming from a very rich family, if you think about it.
Right. Yeah. So on that, folks, Indy, do you have a website or a social media platform where you
sacrificinghumanity.com?
That also is in the show notes, folks. So if you didn't catch it, sacrificinghumanity.com, check it out. Order the book. You won't be disappointed. Mr. Jeffrey Mark.
Yes, sir.
Where can people find you? Other
Facebook.
Than on a stage?
Well, yes. Coming to a nightclub near you, because I have a new album coming out. But Jeffrey Mark, as it is spelled beneath me to my right. GeoffreyMark, for those of you who are listening and not watching. On Facebook, Jeffrey Mark Showbiz. On Instagram. And not only have we not had enough of this topic, but in case you haven't had enough of Jeffrey Mark and Ben, we have another show every week. It's a music show. GPE, Jeffrey Mark plays Ella. Ben is the incredible producer who has made this show a big hit. Every week we play the music of Ella Fitzgerald on a theme, and I tell you insider stories about the music, the songs, the albums, and Miss Ella herself. You can look for that on all the same platforms and channels and networks where you find this happy, wonderful show. And wow, this was just so fascinating today.
Yeah, I was very speechless during the show because I just took it all in, which I don't usually do. Usually I'll break in when somebody's rambling for 15 or 20 minutes, but Indy, you carried this show spotless.
Well, thank you.
Spotless. We want to thank
tell my bookers that.
Oh, you were me. Indy, you were so good I didn't make one sex joke. That means you were really good.
That is true too. Believe me, I will reach out to your bookers.
Yeah, Todd.
And
Todd is my
yep,
booker.
Todd.
Special guest.
Yes.
Todd at special guest. He's the
Yes.
head guy.
Well, there's two Todds.
Yeah, I know there's two Todd. Yeah.
Yeah, there's-
Bauman is the head guy.
Yeah, and Todd is who I usually talk to on the phone.
Yeah.
But I will reach out. I'm going to reach out to him tomorrow and just let him know what an amazing guest, what an amazing topic. This guy needs to be on more shows.
Yes.
I know. Tell him that.
You know, let's push the book, folks. In the show notes, up above, down below, depending on where you're watching, listening to us. We want to thank Indy for taking time out of his busy schedule. And trust me, we talked earlier. It's a busy schedule. I think he said he's done 50 interviews in the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 4 a.m., 1 a.m. So, folks, we have a lot of people watching us overseas. If this is something you want, reach out to Todd at Special Guests. Get Indy on your show. No show's too small. No show's too big. It only takes one person to see the right thing.
Yep.
As far as us, just check out stilltoking.com. Everything you want to know, from the novel series to the comic book series to the TV series to the animation to this amazing show that we do now, it's all there. Every bit of it. Our tour schedule's there. I believe we're going to be in Pennsylvania in 2 weeks at the Steel City Cannabis Convention. Make sure you check us out down there. We're going to be hanging out with Tim McBride, the Saltwater Cowboy. To all our veterans and first responders, we want to thank you for doing what you do.
Yes.
So people like us can come up here and do what we do. Stay safe. We'll see you next week. We're out of here.
God bless and have a happy.